I work for the County of San Diego. Assessor, Recorder, County Clerk, the Mr. Bowtie, Ernie Dronenberg. He is a great guy. He is a property owner and a veteran. And I'm just gonna go over a couple of basic things since I have you here. We have 5 offices throughout the county. They're put regionally, so that way you don't have to travel that far. We have a new one in Santee that just opened up. We do assessment, that's property value. Do we recording, birth certificates, death certificates, all those documents. And anybody here get married at the County of San Diego? We married half the folks that actually come in and get their licenses. So we do about 12,000 weddings a year. All of that I can help you with because I'm your taxpayer advocate at the office. We believe in a couple of really strong things, and I'm just going to highlight 2 of them. 98.2 customer service rating. Customer service is first in our office. If you come to us, we're going to help you out. When you go to the back table and you grab my card, it has my cell phone number on it. That's our dedication to you. I did just have a kid. I do not take calls after 7 o'clock. If you do call, my divorce attorney wife will let me know how she feels about it. So please be respectful. The other part is we cut fees. We went into our department and said, hey, how can we do a better job? We actually looked how we can reduce the fees on the citizens of San Diego and charge you what's fair. So that's the way we do business. Now, to understand how property taxes work in the state of California, I think we're being taped. No, just joking. We are actually. But to understand how property taxes in California work, you have to understand this idea called Prop 13. Now, if you just voted recently in the March election, it's different than the one that just was on the ballot. That was a bond. This is the 1978 one. And guess what happened also in 1978? Ernie Dronenberg, my boss, was elected. He said 2 great things happened that year. His election and Prop 13, the property tax protection. I'll let you decide which one was better. But he actually wrote the rules implementing Prop 13, so we know it in our office really well. Here's the basic gist of it, and you're about to become smarter than all of your neighbors, so please spread the word and educate them on how Prop 13 works. It's a deal between you and the government that says when I buy a piece of property in the state of California, I agree that I can afford to pay 1% of that value in my property taxes. And because things have inflation, it can go up to 2% of that value every year. So for example, if you buy a home for $100,000 and that's the market value, you can pay 1%, that's $1,000. And then the next year it can go up to $1,020. That's that 2% increase. Now, it doesn't go up 2% every year. Sometimes it actually goes down and we drop it. But I will say for the most part of our lifetimes, we're going to see it going up 2% on that inflationary factor. It brings predictability. It says, I know that I can afford to pay this, and we don't want to see people out on the street. So it's an affordable housing tool. Okay, ADUs. That's what we're here for. You know, I kind of get to do a lot of these workshops, and I wanted to just do a cleanup on something. A JADU and an ADU. We hear those terms thrown around a lot. A JADU is pretty much an expansion of your house. It's not a separate structure. It's like adding an extra room, an extra bathroom, it's in the house. An ADU is a separate structure. Now, I want to make sure I explain those because what we're going to go through today, it's not going to make a big difference, but you're going to understand whether you change your home or a separate structure, the tax implications are going to be the same. So just also a quick cleanup thing I see a lot is we had Vanessa and the team from county permitting check with the fire department always in advance of everything that you do. They are a separate jurisdiction, and we have wonderful resources with Vanessa and the team back there. I would say as you get started. Now for property tax purposes, Prop 13, remember, it's what you paid on the land, what you paid on the house at the time that you bought it. So what if you change that? What if you make that addition? That's called a reassessment. So we actually will reevaluate your taxes. We'll reevaluate your taxes if it does a change of ownership. So that's if you sell your home to your brother or sister. You sell it to somebody you don't know. Or if you do new construction. So for ADU purposes, it's new construction. But your question's going to be, well, what about what I paid for it at the time that I bought it, right? Anybody here buy a home in 1980? It's okay, be proud, you got pretty low property taxes. It's okay, your neighbors look at it and they go, why are they different? Well, it's because that's what you can afford to pay and that's what you guaranteed at the time. And so your 1980 rate that you paid for your house and your land stays the same. You feel good about that now, right? I see smiles. It's okay. You can be proud. Well, whether you bought it in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s, the property taxes on your house and the land are based at the time that you bought it. Now, an ADU structure that you add, an ADU addition to the house, a JADU, that's the new addition, and we go to market rate. So here's the kind of crazy thing, right? If you bought a house for $200,000 in 1980, and then you add an ADU that's worth $300,000 today, your home value is going to go up to $500,000 for tax purposes, and it's going to be a blended assessment. So I'm just going to keep up. So any new construction that adds value to property will generate a one-time addition, and that's going to be your supplemental tax bill. That's going to be a blended assessment of today's value for the addition and what you paid at the time that you bought it. Now, the thing about new construction is, well, how do you know the market rate of that new construction? We have a state board of equalization, a state board that tells us the value and how nice it is, and we have a grading system. But here's the deal. You get we had the renovation home loans. These folks are great because they work with great contractors that have been certified. But you ever have a contractor and you're like, man, I overpaid. I added a pool to my house. I added my ADU and I paid $400,000, but it's only worth $200,000. On market value, we're going to tax you based on market value, $200,000. Now let's say you're real handy, right? And you're like, I can build this thing myself for way less of the price. I can build it for $25,000 and it's going to be worth $200,000. You're still going to pay property taxes based on the market value of that $200,000, not what you paid in materials and not what you may have overpaid to a contractor. We've all been there. So I'm just trying to look up. I'm a pretty tall guy, but the neck thing there. So if you turn a garage into an ADU and you've already assessed the garage, right? You're already paying taxes on a permitted structure or unpermitted, and I'll get into that in a moment. Are you going to pay for that structure? No, but you're going to pay for what changes you make to that structure and the new value that has come to it by changing its usage. So we have appraisers that come out and they're going to look at it and they're going to look at the permit. What you put on the permit for the jurisdiction that you're working with is what we use for the basis of our appraisal. Sometimes you'll have contractors that will say, hey, I'm just going to permit a little extra space, or I'm going to permit a little extra room because it's easier than having to come back. When it comes to our appraisers, we only know what's on the paper. And so sometimes we have to go back and make adjustments. I'm your taxpayer advocate. My cell phone number is on the card. And you need to look at the papers that come to you. And so as the paperwork routes its way through the county, as it gets approved through a city, as it comes to our office, we're going to send you out a proposed assessment on the new property and the new construction. You have 30 days to respond back to that. Make sure you keep an eye out for that. And you can call us and say we can talk about it with the appraiser informally, and you can educate us if things are different than what are actually reflected on the value. So we're here to help you through that process. You don't have to be a tax expert. You do have an office here to help you with that. All right. So, does anybody here have any unpermitted property? Don't raise your hand. Don't, please don't. Well, so for unpermitted property, right, you've bought it and you're like, it said on the multiple listing system, and my realtor told me, oh, it's 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but there's an extra bathroom, but it's unpermitted. Well, if you bought it and it was unpermitted for tax purposes, I'm just the tax man hat now, it actually doesn't impact you. Adding that and permitting it will not increase your property taxes. It will increase your resale value, and it will be better for you as a home. We do have a separate department that does look at permits. There are fees that are associated with that. I don't wear that hat. But when it comes to actually permitting something, if it was there at the time that you purchased the property, it doesn't increase your taxes because we assume that you actually accounted for that when you negotiated the price. Now, let's say you bought that house and then you added a structure and now you're trying to permit and we didn't know about it. Well, then that's going to add to the value, the taxable value. We can only go back 8 years. So for those 1980 folks that happen to have thrown up a garage in the back, I see smiles, right? Well, we can only go back 8 years. And guess what? We actually price it and index it to the price of the value at the time it was added. So if you added it in 1980, where construction costs were cheaper, that's what we base it off of, not on today's market value. So I will say this, and there's a couple of realtors in the room and they'll tell you, permitted is better, making sure your wiring is better, making sure somebody else looked at the construction so that way you're not putting your family and your renters at risk is better. But for taxes, don't worry, it doesn't always go up. You can call us. I'm not a Catholic priest, but you can ask questions generally and be like, well, my neighbor had a question. We'll help you through that, okay? So again, at the end of the day, we're gonna tell you what we propose your appraisal should be and what the increase on that assessment's gonna be. Pay attention to that. The timing on that is sensitive. Those are state rules. We can't get out of that, but what we can do is work with you. And let's say you miss a deadline, still call us. Sometimes we can't go back, but we can go forward in helping you get to the right value. We don't get bonuses by increasing taxes. We get bonuses mentally and through goodwill and karma by getting you the fair taxable price. And you get to see beautiful additions like this ADU in Chula Vista. This is the opportunity that we have to build something better. As was mentioned earlier, there are resources out there already. We partnered with the city of San Diego and included a tax section. So if you're ever like, hey, I don't remember what the taxes issue was, go to the city of San Diego's companion unit handbook. There's a tax section in the back. It's only a couple of pages. Again, there's my cell phone number, not after 7 o'clock. My wife will, remind me. And we're there to help you out with that. Here's something that, since you're here, I want to try to save you some money. We're just down to the last 2 minutes. First, if you have a home and a primary residence, make sure on your tax bill you're getting the homeowner's exemption. We're the only county in the state of California that has online e-signature. You don't have to come into the office. You can go to sdarcc.com and fill out the application. There's the mayor of Lemon Grove with Ernie Dronenberg filling it out. And on the tax bill, on the top right, if you don't see a $7,000 valued assessment, remember 1%, so it's $70. If you don't see that on your bill, you're not getting it, and we want to help it. You fill it out one time, and we save you money. One of the other things we're doing is helping out disabled veterans. This gentleman happens to live here in Spring Valley. If you're a 100% VA service-connected injured veteran, we can help save you on your property taxes. I'm not going to get into it too deep, but we're ready to serve you. We have 10,000 veterans in the county of San Diego that we're helping. When I started, it was 5,000. We're really making an effort to give back to the veterans that were injured and their surviving spouses. So if their spouse died due to a service-connected injury, we can help save them almost $1,400 every year. And if you're like, hey, if they remarried, we can't help them. But if they get divorced, they're back in the game. So let us... So there's my information. I'm Jordan Marks, and if you have any questions, we're here to help you out. I just had one last thing. Someone asked earlier about, and I just want to do a little, what if you move your parents into the back house, right? What if you move your parents or you're like, hey, I'm going to move my kids into the main house, and I'm going to go into the accessory dwelling unit, and you had really low taxes from 1980 when you purchased? You can actually give your kids the home and get them to transfer your property tax basis over. So I'm just gonna say what that looks like. So if your home's worth $800,000 today, but you're paying taxes based on $400,000, that's $8,000 in taxes versus $4,000. You can actually use what's called a parent-child transfer one time and transfer your kids the residence. Now there's income tax implications, but if it's not gonna impact them, you can give them a place to stay and your low property taxes, whether you charge them full price or not. You can charge them nothing or you can charge them double. I'll let you decide. But we do have tools for helping save seniors and also helping you with your kids, so that way we can have affordable housing here in San Diego County and the state of California. So thank you so much.